Hi, lovelies. Welcome back. So, this is, I think, episode 2 of Calming Chaos. And so, as it's titled in the video, I do want to tell you right off the bat that I am in no way, shape, or form a professional advisor or an alternative way to seek medical and professional help. So, this is just me pretty much sharing based off of life experiences, right? So, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so, all right, babies. I don't even know why I said that, but I've been wanting to share a lot with you, but I'm breaking it down in like a several part series where it's like calming chaos. So the thing is, what I wanted to do about the title is kind of like something that really helped me essentially when I was actually bringing a lot of like circumstances without even me knowing it into my life. Okay, and one of the things I attracted was like really different relationships. Yeah. All the relationships I've been in have been different. To be honest, they've actually been better because I've gotten to the point where I'm, use different techniques in my life to essentially get that. So, without further ado, I want to get into the topic of shadow work. Okay, so essentially, shadow work is a formality of pretty much like whether you want to take it or this or not, but this is from what I've gotten off of the information and knowledge that I've gained. It is essentially where you want to have those like past traumas or even like karmic debt that you are working through, right? It's pretty much acknowledging and facing those issues and the past trauma. And it's even gone far to the point where during my like, spiritual journey of ascending, I've pretty much heard the term like karmic debt or like clearing up generations of karmic debt. And I was just like, I don't know what that is. Okay. So if you see me looking this way or panning out, it's because my mirror is right here. So yeah, but I just want to have like a little chit chat with you, just like normal, keep it peaceful and stuff like that. So essentially what I was going through is just a lot of projecting. I did a lot of projecting. I knew that I was different from the moment like I was like little. I want to say like age 6 or 7. And fast forward to like my teen years, where I pretty much experienced like a major traumatic moment for myself. And it was most likely, it was somebody like really close to me. Okay. And honestly, like I never thought about it differently until now. And so what I ended up doing is pretty much like projecting, and I was just like closing off. Okay, and that added on more of like shadow work that I had to do before I even knew what shadow work was. So I'm going through life before I start recognizing my self concept or who I really am. It's the moment where I noticed that a lot of the stuff I didn't like about myself for some reason was, it was either depicted by family members or friends or like whoever that was like around me at the time. And then I ended up just like taking that in, like, okay, this is me. Like, if they're like that, and these are like people that are around me all the time, then I must be the same too, right? So I ended up taking on a lot of people's like pretty much like journey too, which that was not supposed to be the case. I was not supposed to be doing that. You can be there for somebody. You can be there for somebody without taking on like their burdens, without taking on their problems or issues, or trying to be that like martyr, like, you know what, like, I'm gonna put myself behind, so I can put these people first. Okay, so that was not the case. Let's move this camera because I guess not. Okay. Well, anyway, so as I was saying, like, a lot of this stuff was happening and I didn't know why, and I was just like bottling it in. So if you notice from the first like episode, it's kind of like bottling stuff in and then just like exploding. So essentially that started happening, but on top of me having to learn a lot more lessons, right? So essentially it's kind of like where it like backfired on me, and I was not really up for that because I became a lot more like sensitive and also like closed off. Okay, um keep in mind that you don't always have to be alone in your journey, essentially, but it's like when you're doing inner work, when you're doing shadow work, it has to come from you, right? And like nobody can tell you like, hey, look, you're gonna be doing this, and you know what, you're gonna have to go through it. And sometimes I needed that kind of like boost when I was by myself. I literally was by myself and I didn't know what was going on with me. And it got to the point where I just like ended up closing off towards like a lot of people because I just thought they were after me, or they were just like doing me wrong, when in fact it was kind of like where I was implementing like these past triggers that had nothing to do with me at all, and I was taking them with me and I was incorporating that when I was like around people like family, loved ones, or like even lovers. And so I started just telling myself like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? I don't know, but it was like my first heartbreak that I actually had. I had like a toxic relationship that I had been in, and it was really bad. It was really, really bad, to the point where I just didn't want to be here anymore. Okay, so I was always asking for help. I was always crying out. So the thing is, like, you're given like signs. You're given signs a lot of the times where you don't want to see them, or you don't see them, or like you choose not to see them and stuff like that. And I was given a lot of signs when I look back, when I started just like decoding myself and like seeing where like my journey was beginning and what I was doing. I started going back and I was just like, that actually happened. Like I was actually given very, very, very many like chances to get out of the situation that I was in, and like the first toxic relationship that I was in, because I lived with him. And man, it was very different. So yeah, I ended up being by myself like for about 2 years, and I wasn't looking for love or anything like that. And I was starting that journey little by little. Like I started noticing that there was like some people that were like a little bit more awakened, a little bit more into like spirituality. I started seeing about like signs and synchronicities. Now keep in mind, like my parents, both Catholic, both hardcore Catholics. I mean, but not super hardcore, but you know what I mean. So I end up like, thinking about, okay, I can vibe with a lot of religions, I get it. But I started being more like quieting myself down, because I was to the point where I was just like so aggressive, passive aggressive. I was just like so in my masculine, to the point where I was just like, man, like I don't want to be like this anymore, And so how I stumbled across shadow work and looking at ascension and whatever it may be, whatever like term you want to call it, but it's necessarily, it gets down to the nitty gritty where you're doing inner work, right? Where you're acknowledging your inner child. So I was by myself, I was working, I was having a great time, I was enjoying my single life, right? For like a few years. And so then that's when I started to develop kind of like a notion of being more into spirituality. So I got with this guy. It was short-lived. It was really like hot and fast, and I wasn't looking for anybody, and I knew, I was like, man, like I don't know if I want to be my journey or take this guy on my journey right now and just like, you know, sacrifice myself essentially. So that's what I ended up doing. I sacrificed myself to get to know this guy, and it was really great for the time being. For a little bit. It was short-lived because deep down inside, I always, when I was with him, sorry if you're watching this, you know who you are. We met at work, and while he was, in a different like field. He was a driver, and so yeah. So we went to a lot of places and we had fun and this and that. But I always, deep down inside, I always like was telling myself, just, you gotta let go of this kid, you gotta let go of this person, because you gotta work on yourself. You asked to work on yourself, and look what you're doing now. Like, you're not, So I always felt bad because I ended up doing the same thing that I was doing before, which was, prioritizing somebody else, and sacrificing myself. So, just different situations happened, which, I was grateful for, but that was my first heartbreak because, I know that I had to sacrifice him and our relationship in order for me to work on myself so I can better myself, right? So I can better understand myself and see why all this was going. So, we ended up separating and stuff like that. That was a really bad heartbreak. It was a really bad breakup, and we didn't get over each other until like 4 or 5 years later, after we broke up, and we were only together for like 1 or 2 years. And that was intense. I didn't know how to explain it to him, that I just essentially wanted to say, it's not you, it's me, when in reality it was me. It's like, I chose this, but you came at the perfect, like, the perfect person at the time. I thought the perfect person came at the time, at the wrong time. Okay, does that make sense? I don't know, that's what I thought at the time, but let bygones be bygones. And so I was just like darn, like, I really wanted to be with this person, but I made everything in my power so that this guy can just like not come back, because something was telling me like, don't let him come back, because he's gonna want to come back. I mean, it took like half a decade for us to get over each other. So, yeah, if you're watching this, you know who you are. Anyway, so what I started doing, because I was spending a lot of time by myself, I did have friends. I did join like a car club. I was into cars. I still am into cars. However, I'm just like very much more different now, just because I don't have the necessity to be out, because I'm still on my journey, to be honest. But I feel like I'm starting to get out of that, because I'm starting to like give these videos like those are some fire eyebrows. We're gonna fix those up. Okay, we're gonna fix those up. And what was I saying? Yeah. So it was all like synchronized, almost as if it's like, be careful what you wish for, right? So I started by first noticing like the traumas that were like, I separated in two, and it's just in my head. Like, I was just laying down on the side of my bed. I remember at the time I was like renting out a room by myself, and it was from like an old like a school friend. And so a school friend's ex-boyfriend, he owned a house. Okay, well, anyway, so I just started noticing like patterns. Okay, like I acknowledged my thoughts at first, and then I started pretty much writing stuff down. I started journaling. Like I said, that's when journaling saved my life. It literally did. I highly recommend journaling if you have nobody to talk to, or you choose to just like go on the journey by yourself, where you don't feel like you can connect and be vulnerable to somebody as of yet. Journaling helped me out a lot, because now I can be vulnerable to the point where I know how to tweak my boundaries, where I can be open enough and, just to have that connection with somebody. I wasn't able to do that before. Ask me to do that like 5 years ago. I was like, no, pass. That's a hard pass. So what I was doing essentially, and I want to keep this short and simple. I know I should like be cutting stuff out, but I was writing stuff down, and I'd ask myself questions. So when I was laying down, and essentially because I didn't know what meditation was, like I didn't know how to meditate, I didn't know like how to even like start doing that, but I started doing it, right? And because I was just looking up like on YouTube for self-help, for meditation, for clearing up childhood traumas, for actually, you know, bringing the little inner me out and being that parent that that I wanted, or being that parent that the little kid in me needed and wanted, you know, at such a young age. And that helped me out a lot. And I do it for that little kid in me. I do everything for her. It's kind of like I have a kid, like I'm a parent all the time, you know what I'm saying? And even though I'm not a parent right now, it's like it's kind of like learning how to be a parent, you know. And that's what's helping me out a lot. That's what's helped me, because when I'm healing my inner child, when I give my inner child that, when I give him that type of like acknowledgement and let them know, like I let her know, like, hey, everything's gonna be okay, like take my hand, you know, embrace her and stuff like that. You put yourself first. So that's a type of inner work that I've done in my case. However, a lot of the times there's gonna be a lot of trauma that you don't remember that will surface, okay? I wrote everything down. I have a lot of journals. I have like notebooks and everything, like that I wrote everything down, you know, whatever happened to me, questions I would ask myself, meditate on, and stuff like that. Meditation essentially is just quieting your breathing. Like me, I have a short attention span and my mind's like all over the place. But when I know that I have to, or I want to meditate, I actually do it. And I'm surprised to do that, you know? And I've grown very fond of that because it's helped me, you know, clear the chaos that I have going on in me, you know? My mind can be a little chaotic, not gonna lie to you. During that time, also doing my shadow work, I've learned the traumas that, you know, like I said, you know, differentiating what's yours and what's not. I learned that a lot of the traumas that I had were not mine at all. Like I took on a lot of traumas. Just from, you know, being being with my family. So I did acknowledge that like these videos were going to be very personal, but as long as it helps you, because I know I went through this stuff for a reason, right? To uplift. And you know, that's one of my main purposes of why I'm here, is to, you know, spread pretty much knowledge, right? And that's one thing that will never be taken away from you, is knowledge, you know, and knowledge is power. So with that, I noticed that I separated the two, and I started just not gravitating towards that when I was in like social events or when I was around family. And I started noticing like if these like traumas started rising again, because it stemmed from that certain like family member, friend, or whatever, I would just instinctively just kind of like step aside, or just, you know, tell myself, hey, it's okay, don't take on what's going on right now, okay? Before, like, I would hate conflict. I would absolutely hate conflict. And now it's just like, there's no need for conflict for me. You know, if you want to talk it out like an adult, talk it out. But essentially, shadow work did help me develop my inner connection per se. And yeah, so it's just listening to yourself, you know, writing things down. If you write something down, or if you ask yourself, like when you're by yourself, you know, before you sleep, ask yourself a question, and guarantee like you'll get the answer, because all the answers you need are within you, right? That's essentially what shadow work is. It's like looking at what you have gone through, right? What you need to work on, what needs acknowledging, and it all starts with your inner child, essentially. There are some other tools that I'm going to go through in like this series for calm chaos, and I just want to let you know that when you feel alone, like at the lowest point where you feel alone, that's the best way to essentially acknowledge why you feel like that, because you're not alone. You're never really, you have your, you know, your past self, you have your present self, and you have your future. So it's, you're not really alone, right? You're never alone. And um yeah, I went through that a lot. I felt lost, I felt alone, but hopefully this series helps you out. But this was just like touching the bases, you know, on shadow work essentially. So yeah, if you made it this far, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I didn't even finish my makeup, but yeah, let's send you lots of kisses, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.